Yes, good morning, people of South Africa and everywhere around the world where you are listening to us.
Congo Chris is Guten Morgen, Guten Morgen.
And he says,
Guten
Herr Cliff und
Morgen.
Glutenmorgen, Fräulein Maschicho. All right, Congo Chris, good morning.
And all the bratwursts
Yeah, all the
in the-
bratwursts.
in the comment section. Good morning, everybody.
Yes, all right. Oh,
We're springing this morning. What a wonderful day.
can I tell you what? I had the most incredible drive into work yesterday. I did the show from home and then I had the best drive into work yesterday. I was smiling at everyone in traffic. I even waved at the blue light brigade. That were
You saw a
I
blue light
waved.
brigade?
I waved at them. I was in such a good mood yesterday.
Were you playing loud music?
No, but I had been listening to music for the last day and a half before then, and I find music does have that magical quality, you know?
Yes, it does.
But that wasn't the
Music
catalyst.
is the only magic left in the world.
Like the good vibes came before the music.
I'm telling you, it is the fact. Remember last week I said to you, I can smell it.
Mhm.
It's almost
Mhm,
here.
mhm, mhm.
Oof.
Yeah, I saw some flowers bursting into bloom. The trees in my
The
garden are
trees
starting
have got
to bud.
little buds,
Yeah,
my
I
friend.
know.
The trees have little buds.
So I've got this guy called Lawrence. I think it's Lawrence, but I mean, that's how he spelt it, so I'm spelling it the same. He's from Zim, and he has a team of like 4 guys. And they're tree fellas,
Oh wow.
and they're not cheap. I'll start off with that, but then you realize why they're not cheap when you see what they do.
Most importantly, when they have left and taken
Everything with
everything
them.
along with them,
That's great.
Then
but,
you
But do you
see.
see how they trim? Like I've got these 2 big, tall trees at my driveway. You've seen it,
Yes,
right
yes,
at the
yes.
entrance, and they had to be topped off because their roots are going everywhere. They're a problem, right? Lawrence says no problem, no issue. He gets his guys. They climb up there with just ropes and things, and then they cut the tree above them, and they gently like let it down. How they don't fall? I said to him, "Do you have like workman's compensation?" Or he said to me,
Baba.
he said, "I don't even have like a work permit from the South African government." But I watched these guys doing their thing, and they are superb. The reason I bring him up is because he's coming next week, and he's coming to tidy up the trees. And then I've got these creepers all over my house, which also I can't reach up there. There's no way I could get up there. And he gets up, and then he sorts out all that stuff once a year. He does that for me, and
And
I mean,
now is that once a year?
but you see, like this is where I say to people, yeah, sure, the economy's tough and things aren't easy at the moment. But if you can do something like that, someone will pay you for it. I'm telling you, because people need that shit done. I can't let my trees grow into my neighbors' gardens and keep going up and up and up until they block the DSTV decoder dish.
You still have DSTV?
Nah. Well, funny thing that I had to sort that out as well, because it just I never watched TV, and I realized it wasn't working because I've got such an old decoder that I needed to replace the thing. So that's more money. And then yesterday, a guy came around to like treat in inverted commas the lawn.
Yeah, it's also the
It's more money.
Gareth, all of this,
And I look at this
and you're
Phumi and I'm
still
like,
in a good mood.
Yeah, I know, but
Baba.
I'm in a good mood because spring's coming. I don't mind. I don't mind as long as I know there's going to be summer at the end of this, and it's going to be, being in the sun and swimming and Christmas and all that good shit. That makes it worth the while. No, I love it. But the bills, I don't want to hear about the bills anymore.
We went out into the park on Sunday morning. Kaneho was riding his bicycle, and I was walking, and it was just
beautiful.
It was magic.
That's so nice.
The
word is salubrious. Yeah, it is healthy. It is good. It is pure. It's just nice. That's what you want.
Mm.
So we're off to a very good start, a very
Magical.
optimistic start. And because I got into the office yesterday after this really nice drive, I was actually quite sad my drive was so short.
Oh,
normally
short.
And there was traffic,
Oh.
but it didn't bother me.
60 kilometers of it.
So I suddenly realized, actually, you know what? And we say this all the time, but I forget to live it sometimes. What you put out, you get back.
Uh-huh.
So I was feeling good, and everything else that came at me was good too. I managed to get to gym yesterday. I didn't eat a whole lot of crap that I had a salad for lunch, and I had a very small healthy supper. I got to bed and felt like, done a day's good work. It was a good day.
Nice.
It was a good day yesterday. So I'm in that mood now, and we're going to see if we can keep this going until the end of the year.
I actually, 2 days ago, and I think I retweeted it, somebody saying, when you feel the buds of a terrible day, you've got to choke it.
Kill it in the cradle. In the cradle. Destroy that goddamn thing. So today we've got a hell of a show for you. I mean, when do we not? But the Burning Platform is going to be here later on. Kanthan makes his triumphant return. I know a lot of people have been asking, where is he? He's been skiving off. But, he has daddy duties. He has to drop kids at school and all that stuff. Not that you don't, but,
I don't, because I've shirked that responsibility to boarding school.
You send him to boarding school, which is, by the way, the smartest thing any parent can do. I just have to say that's a real move on your part.
Listen here, it's school holidays. So I will tell you that my fridge is looking a little less for me.
Yeah, well, you always...
Because it is school holidays.
I'm going to stand up for Kanejo here, because you are constantly saying how much this son of yours eats.
It's a boy thing. I have had this confirmed for me.
But he's a growing young man. He's not a glutton. This is just what young men do.
And this is horrifying for me, having been a young woman in my life. I had no, I had no sense of how hectic it actually is to be a growing young man. But here it is. It's quite hectic. They smell funny. They eat a lot.
Don't be rude. I'm going to stand up for him if you want.
I'm telling you now, mothers here on this platform will tell you, mothers to boys will tell you it's a shocking experience.
The guest this morning on the Burning Platform, we haven't ever had them before. So I joked and said to my sister's boyfriend, hey, because I saw him and her yesterday. My parents are away, so they have to look after all these dogs, right? So I said to James, hey, we've got on tomorrow. He goes, who? I said, Dr. Corne Mulder from the Vryheidsfront Plus. So he goes, oh, nice. That was his answer. Oh, nice. So he's going to be on. It's the first time I think we've ever had the Vryheidsfront Plus on. So we've had the EFF recently.
Yeah.
We've had the ANC recently. We've had the DA. We've had Herman Mashaba's action essay. We've had Musi Maimane.
We've had Lukona
from
Rise in Zanzi.
Lukona. We've had Songe Zazibi as well a couple of times. So it's I think the only parties that we haven't had are the ACDP.
There is a party that is today. Today is the first day of the convening of.
Yes,
and I see that they
had that national
rebranded.
Convention or something, right?
They've rebranded. I don't know if they're rebranding from Moonshot Pact.
Well,
I don't know,
because I never liked Moonshot Pact.
Man, didn't be too.
No, because what I remember about that is aim for the stars, and even if you miss, you'll land on the moon or something, some crap like that. I've never liked any of that. I don't like any of that stuff. Plus, this is the age of conspiracy theories, and there's still lots of people who think that they never landed on the moon. So we've got to be careful what we call things.
Today, I think today is day one of this national convention. So
yes,
and there is a party that is represented on here, and I saw this party for the first time a couple of days ago. And then when I saw them on the national convention, I was like, "How these guys they're out here being serious players, even though they don't." They are called Spectrum National Party.
Holy shit! What is that? What a terrible name. First of all, terrible name.
And this is their little poster of their top.
That looks like an organogram.
Yeah, this is their top people. But this is and the president
Yes.
is a gentleman called Christopher Claassen. And they have got something very special here. They
Yeah.
have got 1, 2, 3, 4 deputies. One of the 4 deputies is vacant, and so they are looking.
Oh boy.
If you're listening, this might be an opportunity.
Yeah,
for
because you want to join Spectrum. What?
But so they have got a deputy black.
Oh, they've got a black.
Who's
Good.
Ria Mweketsi.
Okay. They got a colored.
They have a deputy brown.
A deputy brown. Good.
Who is Richard Williams.
Very good.
They have a deputy white.
A deputy white.
Who is Charles Fender.
Please tell me that the 4th one is available to an Indian.
It is a deputy Indian.
Ah.
So
These
if
guys
you
are
are
smart.
an Indian and you are looking to be a deputy,
Is that why they called the Spectrum? They've got the whole spectrum.
They've got
because South Africans are obsessed with race.
national party.
This is
they
very
are
clever.
a spectrum
Okay.
national party.
What do they? Do they stand for anything? You see, you teach me new things every time you start this show with me.
Listen, I'm yet to find out. I am yet to find out. This is their 2024
Oh, good for them. They've got a black, a white, a colored, and an Indian.
Yeah.
I mean, how smart is that? So someone says here, in fact, Bakabantu says, you had the PA guy. Remember Patriotic Alliance? That's true.
Yes.
We had them.
Wambiza.
And then someone else says, we've got to get the Nyawupe mayors on from Al Jama. It's Ntokozo. All right, Ntokozo, we hear you. We hear you. Bongi says, is Ahang still a thing?
It is.
It is? It's like
is.
cope. Is that still a thing?
It is. Ahang.
And cope.
A terrible thing happened to Ahang, but anyway. Cope is
A terrible
still a
thing happened to Ahang. All right. Apparently, Hot Knot says that's a royal flush, that deputy and all those people. Royal flush, most black, white, colored, and Indian. Yeah, Hot Knot, you're right. Spot on. Congo Chris has some feedback for you here. Phumi, I respect you and your opinions, but I had a thought I'd like to lay before you. When you hold the DA to a higher standard and do ANC apologetics, you have the way for government complacency. All right, that's a hell of a way to start this morning.
What? But how do I hold the DA to a higher standard?
I don't know. You must ask Congo Chris.
Yeah, listen, this is a question for Congo Chris.
Yeah, can we, Congo Chris and Phumi, please take this offline, as they say in the meetings. All right. You know, I'm so past being in. I want to give some respect and love, peace and love, peace and love, peace and love this morning to everybody who works in a corporate environment.
Hey, when I was at a seminar with a lot of corporate people.
Okay, so I want to say to those people,
horrifying.
Brothers and sisters in the corporate world, you have my enduring respect, because the kind of bullshit you have to listen to on a daily basis, right, Phumi? The kind of nonsense that you have to listen to, kind of absolute backward, meaningless, rhetorical crap that gets spewed out by people in corporate business in South Africa. This talk about grassroots change and
grassroots.
You know what I mean? Diversity.
That grassroots change is not a corporate term.
Equity and inclusion.
No, grassroots is not
ESG. What do they call
corporate.
it? Environment, sustainability, and governance. And stakeholder relations. And all of these terms that people use in this country. Please, if you're participating in that today, have a stiff drink before you do. I would last.
Stiff drink
before. I often have these conversations.
You can have a stiff drink before,
yes, you must.
Gareth.
You must. A lot of our listeners start drinking first thing in the morning, and it's probably how they end up being the brilliant participants that they are. If I had to spend a day in corporate South Africa with that bullshit terminology, HR and what do they call them? Risk management and all of those people, I would stab myself right in the face. I couldn't do it. So I often have these conversations, more turns into arguments with my business partner. She says to me, and she's right, we don't argue about this fact. She says, you would die in corporate South Africa. if you had to get a job?
I think a lot of people do
You
die
would
in
too.
corporate South Africa.
You've done it though. You did do
Not
it.
corporate. Advertising is not corporate.
Well,
An
no,
ad
okay,
agency
all
is
right.
not corporate.
Fair enough. They're becoming more corporate.
Which is horrendously sad.
It is sad.
But I've only ever been in ad agencies and production companies, and those
They
places.
don't count. No, I'm talking about banks and insurance companies and you know, these big law firms.
Here's
Ugh.
well, look, we work with some of those as clients, and my favorite term that is bandied about in these meetings
Is
colleagues.
Colleagues. You remember?
Colleagues, if we can just for a moment.
All right. So if you're going through that, you have my love.
Oh, shame, man. But we need them. We need them. Corporate people in corporates pushing the
it's like The Office.
Economic
you remember
bean.
You remember The Office, the original series, the British one with Ricky Gervais. That's that kind of environment. Oh, it's soulless. And you know, I thought about it, that combined with the traffic people sit in on their way into those jobs, there's no amount of money you could pay me. None. I wouldn't take Gupta money for those. I would last 3 days. I'd be finished. So it's amazing how much some people can tolerate. It's like being strapped to the gurney and having your fingernails pulled out with pliers.
Listen to me. There are people out there who love that. There are people out there who love this kind of like,
bless you,
very strict, very regimented, very like. There are people out there who thrive in those kinds of environments, who need that kind of environment. So
God bless them.
Don't. We need all kinds.
Let's see what happens. Okay, so a lot to talk about this morning. Where shall we begin, Pums? Because I know that there are some stories in the news that will interest you.
Where do I begin?
Viola Davis is celebrating her 58th birthday in Cape Town, of all places.
Oh, wow.
The actor posted her birthday celebration at the One and Only on Instagram. Thank you for all the birthday love, she said, Enkosi.
Oh, wow.
That's what the Oscar winner wrote.
I'm always astounded at the age of her.
Yeah, I mean, she's only 58.
58? Yeah. Listen, only 58. Looking at that
she looks
girl,
amazing.
Looking at that girl.
But it just shows you how... So I mentioned that I had lunch with a very interesting guy on Wednesday who he's a big businessman in South Africa, and he's 53. He's in better shape, and he looks younger than everyone else in the restaurant who's much younger than him in years. Some people are just lucky. She's like that too, Viola Davis. But nice place to spend your birthday, the One and Only. And I'm glad that people like Viola Davis are coming to South Africa and going to those hotels, because they need that foreign money. They would not survive on the local trade.
They need those dollars.
Absolutely. We met an American friend of ours yesterday, and we were talking about how the exchange rate at the moment is working so well for her. Oh, come here with dollars. She said she gets an Uber and it's like $2.50. She's like, this is ridiculous.
Guy, I told you about the pain of being in Washington just as the rand was like crashing spectacularly.
Yeah.
So I listen, coming here with your US dollar must be nice.
Yeah, it would be. Corporate culture, says Kevin, is the same as politics. A few people trying to stay relevant at the expense of productivity and governance. Yes, they are. That's my whole point, is that they're all these placeholders in business. And it's not just in South Africa. It's all over the world. Business has become like there's sheltered employment in every company for someone who just slows everything down with this nonsense. That's, again, another reason why I wouldn't make it. What does Phumi think, producer Ryan wants to know, of Miss SA? Do you have any thoughts? You didn't watch it. You don't know. You don't care.
I did not watch it. I did see, obviously, in the bubble of social media, I did see the throwing around of all sorts of things. But kudos to the young lady.
Mhm.
Apparently, a couple of years ago, she was like a second runner-up or something.
She entered again.
And
She couldn't get enough.
that, my dears,
She couldn't get enough.
just that one thing that she came back
Yeah.
for it
All right.
is wonderful.
So Pumi's doing something that I'm going to do. She told me this morning, and it suddenly got me thinking about my favorite author and public intellectual of the 20th century. She's reading a book. You're listening
all
to
time.
Yeah.
Oh, like
of all time. Yeah.
wow.
Well, I mean, certainly of my lifetime.
Yeah.
There are people who wrote before this person who were absolutely astonishing writers. I'm not going to take anything away from Shakespeare and Milton and Keats and Byron, and let's and Orwell. Let's not give him everything, but certainly of where our two lifetimes overlapped, I was very, very fortunate to have I had encountered him online, and then later started reading his books, and I cannot say that they didn't have a profound effect on me. And he is Christopher Hitchens, who actually, he died in 2011, because I remember I flew down to Cape Town to meet with a friend of mine who'd also been a big fan of his, and we both cheersed him across the ocean.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was very cool. But I read all of his books. Well, not all. There are two that I haven't. And he wrote prolifically.
He did.
So for me to track down some of these, I mean, there's his final book was something called Mortality, and he wrote it at the end of his life. It's a short book, but what a profound work of human intellect and spiritual understanding, it has to be said. So you're listening to the audiobook for
that is read by him,
Hitch 22, which is his autobiography.
Yeah.
Right.
And it is read by him, which sounds fantastic because he's a great storyteller. So even though he's reading the book,
voice, and
he's telling the story, and his
pronunciation, his words, his grammar, the flow of his
puns,
sentences, everything. He's hilarious.
His sarcasm.
Hilarious.
Yeah, in every way, but also giant intellect.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that I have been thinking a lot about just listening to this book is the fact that we do not have enough of this form of thinking.
We don't.
Left.
We don't.
No one's writing like this. No one's saying these things. It's all just
the job of
hyperbole. And
unfortunately, the job of public intellectual has fallen to such retrograde and below average people. You know, journalism used to be a competitive field. Like it used to actually be a blood sport. Like journalists, and if you think about Hitchens and before him, people like Gore Vidal. You know, these are people
whom he loves.
And these were people who
Norman
Mailer. People who fought every time they got into a debate or every time they wrote a column, they went to war. It wasn't just for them to show off their understanding of language or to unpack a subject, or they were going to war for their point of view.
There's a book about advertising, which is quite a fantastic book, and it's an old book. It's called A Smile in the Mind. And it is about that good advertising creates a smile in your mind. And one of the things that I miss a lot of, even in writing, in the opinion pieces and all of this, is exactly that. Is just that smile in the mind, a turn of phrase, a spike of sarcasm, a new thought or a new way of looking at an old thing that simply just makes you go, and that's what is kind of
Well, here Congo Chris has sent us a quote of Hitchens. A great mind is measured not by what it thinks, but by how it thinks. And that is exactly what he was able to do. So even if he's the one who said that, you can hear him saying it, and he would have said it better than anyone else. So Gray says, Jordan Peterson is no. You see, Jordan Peterson's terrific, and I see he has come at a time where we need someone like him to say the things he's saying. He's a very valuable human being to have around, and I've interviewed him, and I've read some of his stuff. I read 12 Rules, and I think he's a very fine mind indeed, but he does not have the use of florid language and the turn of phrase that Christopher Hitchens did. Christopher Hitchens could put a sentence together like a watchmaker builds a wristwatch. Everybody else puts sentences together like they're hammering some sort of rough-hewn piece of stone with crude tools. So it's not the same. Douglas Murray says great. Well, Douglas Murray, again, in some ways is a successor to Hitchens in his bravery, his courage to stand up against what the overwhelming popular culture is. Douglas Murray has also an extraordinary linguistic ability, but not comparable. Sorry. I love Douglas Murray. I've also spoken to him a number of times, and I think he's got a fine mind too, but not on the level of Hitchens. And then he says, finally, Heather McDonald is also not. Also not. I'm afraid not. Gray, your standards are just lower than mine. That's all. But that's okay.
Yeah, it's...
That's okay. I just don't agree with you. And that's also okay. Here's something interesting. Rebellious Ruth says, my son is reading his book. So proud, and he's 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
17-year-old.
young age to be hitting that stuff.
It's good. It's good. Let the youngsters...
Matthew Dixon says rightly, Jacob Zuma had a way with words. Almost as good as Biden. All right.
Jacob Zuma did have a way with words.
And Tracy Bard says that this is an interesting one. David Attenborough's books is as mesmerizing as a narration of documentaries. Yeah, I mean, in his field, he's unsurpassed, right?
Sanel, stop it.
Sanella says, I'm the new age Christopher Hitchens, but I'm wasted on this comment section. Yeah. Well, all right. Listen, a couple of things in the news that we need to look at. So first of all, there's an urgent electricity bill, and it's not the one that you have to pay to Eskom this month. The key to solving South Africa's power crisis, it has been delayed by an administrative bungle. I wish this wasn't true. The Electricity Regulation Amendment Bill has not yet been tabled in Parliament, this despite being prioritized by the Cabinet. Administrative bungling is said to be behind the delay. Anyone surprised? Pumi's just shaking her head. She actually has, she's exasperated. She has nothing to say. All right.
Okay.
And then
I thought we were talking about the news, like new things we haven't heard about.
You didn't know about this? You knew about it already? I didn't know about it until today. All right. There are new smoking laws coming for South Africa. Do you care about this? You see,
Tell us more.
I cannot believe that we're still upset. There's someone who's got a major monkey on their shoulder about smoking in this cabinet.
What could be new about the law?
Okay, let me tell you. They're seeking to provide legislative and policy changes on the following. Indoor public spaces and certain outdoor areas will be determined to be 100% smoke-free. Don't we have that already? I think we do.
Crickets.
The sale of cigarettes through vending machines will be banned.
Wow.
I don't know why. Who are you punishing? Who are we going to stop?
Wow.
Okay. Cigarette boxes will have to be plain packaging with graphic health warnings and pictorials because those have worked so well so far. Who's behind this? Who do you think this is? A total ban on display at point of sale and the regulation and control.
A total ban of?
On display. So you
Okay.
can't have brand names, you can't have any advertising. And the regulation and control of electric nicotine delivery systems and no nicotine delivery systems. Now that is new. That is new. That has to do with vapes.
Okay.
So vapes and these electronic cigarettes, various even the ones that the tobacco companies themselves have started bringing out. So what do you make of this, Pums? Is this an urgent priority in South Africa?
We have more urgent problems. We have big, and look, I'm sure it's important to someone somewhere, but
But how's
look how
this?
hardworking the people that this is important to. Does that mean that other people don't have,
I mean,
aren't looking at what we may think are important things and pushing those bills?
and they've got, don't we have some laws against drugs like Nyorpe? Has it made a difference? No. So why is the smoking stuff going to make a difference? And why are smokers in particular so demonized in our country by the law? Why is the law, why are the lawmakers in this country so damn obsessed with punishing smokers in particular?
I'd also be quite interested to know what it looks like, what these laws look like, benchmarked against international standards, right? So what is
what
our
standards?
laws?
Because I mean, you've got a country that what we're trying to do here is what they've got in places like Australia. We're applying rules that would work in Australia to a place like this where they will not work. And do you think this is going to stop people from smoking? Has it stopped? Has it curtailed smoking in any way?
Or new people starting to smoke?
Doesn't make a difference.
Not
all of these rules will stop one kid if the cool kid is a smoker at school. That cool kid is more powerful than all your laws, cabinet. It's just unreal to me. I mean, like, I have two parents who smoke. I am a non-smoker. I've never smoked a cigarette in my life. I've not so much as put a lit cigarette to my lips ever. Right? Ever. I've even tried a cigar once or twice. I've tried Hubblies. I like that. I've tried vapes. I don't really like that. But I'm not a smoker. I've never wanted to smoke cigarettes. Ever. But I don't demonize and make smokers uncomfortable. To me, some of the most interesting people are smokers. Sometimes I'd rather be outside in the cold with the smokers chatting to them than with the boring people at the table when everybody gets up to take a cigarette break. It's just unreal to me. It's so stupid that this is our thing. This is as dumb and will look as dumb as those rules they made during lockdown that everybody thinks now were the most stupid thing ever.
So are you telling me that this is how hectic the smoking laws are in Australia? I'd be interested if anyone's in the comments.
Yes.
How much smoking happens? Young people
it's probably
will always start smoking.
It's probably the same as it was. Probably the same as it was before. I don't think any of this stuff makes any difference. And as Sianda says, so we can't pass electricity bills, but cigarette laws are so urgent. Priorities are not a priority to these guys. Spot on, Sianda. You should be the minister. It's just unreal, right? Adam says, I have a friend who lives in a small town in the Northern Territory. They get to use the bottle store once a week and only can buy one bottle of wine or a six-pack. It's strictly policed.
What does that mean?
Well, the Canadian government's like the Australian government. They want to socially engineer. So you can't make your own decisions.
Wait a minute.
Government will look after you. We want you to be healthy, so we will tell you how much you're allowed to drink.
Wait a damn minute. One bottle of wine a week per person. Per person.
And you have to be over the age of 21, I think. In most Canada's 18, but over 21 in some parts. How's that, huh? And I just love how the government, who can't run a piss up in a brewery, the government who cannot switch on and switch off the things we need to be switched on and off every day, that cannot manage the roads, that cannot manage rubbish collection, that cannot manage streetlights, that cannot manage budgets of municipalities.
So
these are the people you're going to trust your health to? We're going to let these idiots...
My view is, government. Who is this one person? This one, because that's what it comes down to, right? Because a government is a big
collection of morons.
But this one person to whom this is so important that they would, push through right down the stick, like all of the details of this thing, this one person.
Mm.
Because that's what it boils down
It
to.
boils down to one person.
Yeah.
But that person is so driven to do this. That's why I ask again, who is it that has such a chip on their shoulder about smoking? I don't get it at all. It really is just unbelievable. So here we go, $45 for a pack of 20 in
Yo.
Australia. People still smoke, but the numbers have gone down. It could be the vapes which are on the rise. But this is it. Now you see kids at school, and in their bag they've got a vape. They don't let the teachers see, because the smokers when I was at school also never let the teachers see.
So when we got to high school,
I refused. You know, when I was a prefect, I refused to bust the smokers.
you were a prefect.
I was a prefect, believe it or not. I don't know how that happened. But I had a friend called Linda, and Linda was the coolest girl in the whole school. And she'd failed like twice. She had long blonde hair, and she just didn't give a shit. She always like wore a jersey around her hips. When the teachers would talk to her, she'd roll her eyes. She just didn't give a shit. And I loved that about her. And I said to her, she said to me, prefect her. I said to her, yeah, don't worry about it though. She said, what do you mean? I said, I'm not going to bust any of the smokers. I could give a shit. These dumb teachers with their dumb rules. I'm not busting smokers here. I'm staying out of their business. Right?
I didn't realize what a big problem vaping was in high schools. Obviously, in schools generally, and obviously until we got to high school. And it was such a shock to our system, Kaneho and I, the issue of vaping and vapes and shame, you know. Teachers are my highest profession in the history of the world, because I can't believe there are people who do that every day. Teachers are amazing. They deal with people at the earlier ages. They deal with people who pee in their pants.
Other people's children, not even their own children.
A class full of them, you know. And then they deal with sully teenagers, and they deal with
Tracy says vaping is quite rife in primary schools. Yes. I've seen a lot of people in their 20s who do not put down their vape. They have it with them all the time. All the time. This is a big thing. And
primary school.
And again, none of my business. I don't give a shit. You do whatever you want. I'm a proper libertarian when it comes to this stuff. If you put into your body, you want to eat and get fat, that's on you. You want to smoke, that's on you. You want to drink, that's on you. I will never, ever get involved in your decision making. I will criticize you if you smell of smoke. I will criticize you if you get fat. I will laugh at you if you get drunk and fall over, but I will never tell you what to do. And you must not tell me what to do. And let government be warned. I'm not going to listen to any of your stupid rules. If I were a smoker, I would be smoking in your face right now. And I don't like any of this. I don't like any single scrap of this. As a non-smoker, it makes me want to start smoking. How about that? I get so rebellious when I hear these dumb rules being made. Can we collectively point fingers at the riffraff and dandruff of Swellendam, who set the municipal building alight and looted shops and cops were not protecting it, as well as shutting down the N2? Yes, Dussie, I agree with you.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. I saw that this morning when I got up. Why? What is it that was...
By the way, these are the people who work at the municipal building.
Really?
That's what happened in Pretoria. They had arrested and fired a bunch of people.
And then they came back and just burned down the office.
Well, they tried, but then they managed to stop them. I don't understand why people do this. I really don't. I don't get it at all. I don't think these are people who are engaging their brain at all. They just get caught up in the hysteria, the mob kind of excitement. They think they're part of something. They're going to achieve something. They're angry because life hasn't worked out for them. And they don't think about it. It just comes. It comes from feeling. It comes from feelings. It doesn't come from brains. There's no brain behind this. It's like a large organism with a whole lot of individual parts, but there's groupthink going on there. the most dangerous thing of all. Told you, I think I had in a previous life, I was killed by a mob. Can't stand a mob. I can't stand a mob so much.
Killed by a mob with
I'm-
pitchforks.
I'm telling you, in some previous life of mine, I was killed by a mob because when I hear about it in the news or I see it on the streets or I think about it and read about it, whatever, I get this
Heebie-jeebies.
I get this cold sweat. I must have been burnt as a witch or I don't know, something in a previous life. I hate a mob. In fact, I hate a mob so much that I even hate belonging, as in to a group that is doing good. Like the minute there's a club and I'm included, all I want to do is get out. It's the weirdest thing. If you believe in past life, I've got to sit down with one of those past life regression people, figure out what happened to me in a previous life at the mob, because there's a problem there. All right. What else do we have here in the news? Let's take a look, because the smoking thing has really pissed me off. Let's find something good. Let's find some decent news.
Oh, at least I have spent since last week's news. I have been in a rabbit hole with the Lizzo story.
Oh,
in a freaking rabbit hole.
What do you really think happened there? Because I've got a theory.
What's your theory? Right, Tell me your theory.
My theory is these backup dancers, like anyone who is the second or third or fourth in command, they eventually get a little bit jealous of the person who's getting all the attention and all the money and all the action. And I don't think Lizzo is some sort of demon. I mean, she may have weird fetishes. A lot of people do, right? Who doesn't? And apparently this club in Amsterdam, that's what happens there. People eat bananas out of vaginas. I'm not saying this is somewhere that everyone should go, but the place exists. There's a market for this.
There's a market for this.
There's demand. So now there must be supply. So let me just finish the thought. The idea here is that I think these are angry underlings who maybe they didn't want to work for Lizzo anymore. Maybe they hated Lizzo. So they went after her for the one thing they could nail her on. And
can they though? Can they really though?
They're trying. Aren't they trying?
This is the rabbit hole I have been down. I am just astounded at all of these happenings around her, right? Like even just that there's a club in Amsterdam where people are eating bananas out of vaginas.
Sure.
I am just all of this. I'm in awe of all of this. And then this fight. For me, it's a little bit like the burning down of your office block, right? It feels like that. It's an absolute kind of mob justice for Lizzo, who has always been a little crazy, has always been a little kinky.
So if you are a backup, have you heard her songs? Have you heard the lyrics to her songs? If you're her backup dancer or backup singer, or you work in a band, you're working with Lizzo. You can't suddenly decide halfway through you're a Catholic cardinal.
Hey.
I don't approve. I don't appreciate what Lizzo's doing. You knew what you were getting into. This is Lizzo. You can't suddenly have an assumed morality halfway through.
Yay. And the lawyers and this rabbit hole.
Please.
Rabbit hole.
They wanted some money. I'm telling you, they tried to extort her for money. I assume this to be true.
The body shaming allegations.
Exactly. Why would they go after that? Because they know that's where she's at her most tender, because Lizzo has stood up against body shaming. So they go, well, if we tell everybody that Lizzo says we were too fat to dance for her, then it's going to make all of her body shaming talk look like nonsense. These are pathetic nobodies. We will never hear from them again. They're disgruntled ex-employees, and never, ever trust what a disgruntled ex-employee says about a place that they've worked. Ever. Ignore them. It's like the people who went on about, Elon Musk was so horrible when he fired us from Twitter. Don't listen to those people. They're morons. They were fired because they were crap. Do not listen to them. Ex-employees are nonsense people.
It has been, So that's all I'm saying.
You agree with that?
This is the benchmark
you think that's
I have
right?
for you. Yeah, people
Yeah.
are describing.
Yeah.
But this is the benchmark. So this is my benchmark. As you look through the news items,
Huh.
this is my benchmark for you. I want a kind of news item that'll put me down a rabbit hole for the next
This is
7 days.
so okay. This is what you need. So Carl says, I agree, Gareth. I don't think that Lizzo has enough time to lift her head from the trough to sexually harass people. I agree.
Aye, man.
I agree. That's another thing. It's like there's something so gross about like imagining Lizzo and her team going to like this strip club. It's just imagine how the people in the strip club are like, oh, that table's going to eat us out of house and home. First of all. Second of all, which dances? Do I have to dance for the fat table? It's like I've seen in strip clubs before that I've been into. You can see when like a table of old, rich guys who don't look after themselves. They've made lots of money, but that's all they've got. And they pervs.
I've
creeps.
never been to a
They
strip
sit down.
club.
Oh, I'm going to take you. You know, you and I are going to go and do a Lizzo night. Team build. But so the point is, you see this table of old rich guys, but they're gross guys. And then there's some 20-year-old girl. And now she has to go and like put her hand on this one guy's sweaty shoulder, say to him, "Hi, are you having a good night?"
What do
And
they talk to them?
Yes, she's
It's
hoping
just
to
coming
get
like-
she's hoping to get the commission for the table dance or the lap dance or the booth dance or whatever kind of dance. This is her job. She's in the business of courting these men's eyes.
And wallets.
And she sees this table. She knows they've got lots of money. But you could see she's kind of like, ugh. Like she wouldn't talk to these men on the street. If they walked past her and went, because they probably do that kind of thing, she would have gone, ugh, right? But in the strip club, she knows what she has to do. I reckon that's how the girls felt when they saw Lizzo's people arrive. They're like, really?
Isukile.
Mm.
Sekunjalo.
Mm.
Mm.
Gareth just said that where Lizzo is most tender. To be fair, Lizzo is tender everywhere, says Sun.
Aye, man.
There's so many easy jokes here, right? So many easy jokes. All right, so that was the story that caught Pumi's attention for a whole 7 days.
Bona, I have been through the rabbit hole, like on the pictures, on the news
Really?
sites, on the
Really?
yeah, because
It's amazing what gets your attention. All right.
I was so this all I'm saying. Also, producer Ryan and friends in the back. This is all I'm saying as you're sifting through the news headlines. This is the kind of news headline
All right,
that
that's
I'm
what you
looking.
want.
It's got to be something that takes you down a rabbit hole.
Now you know, everybody. This is what Pumi's after. All right. Yesterday's show was one of the best this year. Oh, really, Tubble? Why? Please tell me. Was it when Ryan and you know, we were talking? What were we talking about yesterday? Because Lebang was full of beans. We actually had a lot of fun yesterday. Are you talking about Vusi Tembekwayo? Because he was on. Thank you, Pumi. Both you and I have the sniffles. It's not like we've got colds. We've just got the sniffles.
Listen, I have had every version of weird, ill sickness in the past month.
Let me tell
There
you.
was the week where I was like coughing my lungs out here.
I know.
I don't know what's going on. It's been a week.
I can't wait for
It's
summer.
been a month.
Can't wait for summer because in summer I don't get any of this. There's no sinus and nasal issues. Tissues for nasal issues, we used to say. I used to have to keep a box of the goddamn things next to me. I still do at home. Says Pumi, don't come back and sue Gareth like Lizzo's dancers after he takes you to a strip club.
Are there still strip clubs out here in Joburg?
Oh, yes. They're good ones and they're really dodgy ones.
No,
I'm going to take you to good ones. You've never
I've
been?
never been to a strip club. And I used to work across from one. Remember where the old Huntless Scarrows building was? Across from.
Yes,
never
that's
been.
right. No, I'm going to sort that out. You're coming with me.
Mm.
No, you'll love it. It's lots of fun. It's not creepy and weird. You'll enjoy it. Trust me. All right. He is referring to Vusi, says Carl, and I agree. Not the morons before 7 a.m. Hey, I'm included in those morons before 7 a.m. So who you talking to? Watch your smart mouth, Carl. All right. Okay. So Someone says here we've got the ERIS variant. Oh God, what is that?
What the hell is that?
What is that?
Variant of who?
Yeah, please don't talk about variants, especially after COVID. I'm still not comfortable about this.
Variant of what?
Please. Even Cyril's like, huh? What are you talking about?
Hey, Mo.
Exactly. Did you hear Mount Etna erupted the other day and they had to close the
I
airport?
heard about the volcanic ash.
Yeah.
I was like, what? This again?
They had to shut down the airport in Sicily because Etna erupted. Now, Mount Etna has pretty much been, it's an active volcano. It's been active since ancient times. And in fact, I've put up a picture here of the entire sort of area from satellite. It's called the Parco dell'Etna. And you could see the smoke. Do you see that haze across? Sometimes if you look at satellite pictures of the Mediterranean, you will see that plume of smoke from Etna blowing right across the sea for miles. It's quite something to take note of. And you think that mountain has been furious since humans have written anything down.
Yay.
Hey, isn't that wild?
Nice.
Yeah.
I saw that about the volcanic ash, and I was transported back to that week when airports across Europe, and they were like unaccompanied minors lying on benches in.
So Rena's going to Iceland.
Hey.
Okay, she's off to Iceland on a little holiday, and
on a cruise.
Yes, there's that active volcano there. Do you remember how that shut down all air travel in the North Atlantic?
Yeah.
But it's called So I've said to her, when she gets back, if she cannot pronounce the name of that volcano, she's going away again. So she may just come back and mispronounce it on purpose so that she doesn't have to come back to work.
Especially because we won't know if she's doing it right or wrong.
Correct. But she's going to meet proper Icelandic people. So she needs to learn how to pronounce that. That's the only rule that I have for this trip that she's going on. Do we have an explanation about the eruption of Bree Street yet? No. We still don't. And I don't think we ever will. It's going to be like the Abominable Snowman or Loch Ness Monster or the Sasquatch. No one's ever going to tell us the truth. We'll never know. But there was a frightening thing I did scroll through on social media about what these tunnels under Johannesburg looked like. And they're full of zamazamas. You weren't wrong. There are people underground in Johannesburg living. They're living like wild animals. They've got their cooking stuff. They've got beds. It's wet. It's cold. It's not sanitary to live there. But there are these tunnels all over Johannesburg. Remember, ages ago, we had someone tell us that if you had to do a geological survey of the whole Witwatersrand area, you would see it's like a honeycomb under there, which is terrifying.
With lots of trains as well. This is one of the most fascinating things is we have more trains underground than above ground in Johannesburg.
That's right. And with all the mine tunnels and everything else, it really is like a rabbit's warren down there. I think you could do the most fascinating movie about like a whole civilization under Johannesburg that we don't know about. And maybe there is, for all we know. There are whole communities of people. I mean, just apart from the zamazamas, but people who live, eat, breathe, sleep in those tunnels. Frightening, right? Hardy Dave says even the East Rand has tunnels for kilometers. Very scary. Also, we don't know what happened.
East Rand and West Rand. It's actually, and this is where the train system, they actually are connected. East Rand, West Rand, and Johannesburg Central is because of the mining activity.
I just hope it doesn't all collapse at once. Like imagine you just suddenly everyone has just massive sinkholes all over because of all the stuff that they've done. Someone says, quite rightly, Stink Mina says, we still don't know what even happened in Life Estemen. Well, we know what happened.
We know what happened.
No one's gone to jail. Where is she? Angas, right? No orange overalls. Have we run out of orange overalls? Is that the problem?
We could never run out of orange overalls. There'd just be a tender.
Vusi Kwayo laughed yesterday when I said I would pay more tax. You know me, how I feel about tax. I would pay more tax if they just built a prison for politicians and corrupt people in South Africa, white-collar criminals. If they just built a prison for them, I'd be willing to pay more tax. And I think most South Africans would. But it's got to be a hardcore prison. First of all, you don't come out until you've paid back the money. And if that means putting you on a treadmill, like in the 1800s, on a treadmill to generate electricity, I'm telling you, I have ideas.
I love that.
A treadmill.
A treadmill to generate electricity.
Can you imagine all the people who've ripped Eskom off over the years walking on a treadmill every day to generate some watts?
Oh, that is a wonderful image.
I'll pay for that.
That is a wonderful image.
Please, let's do it. If anyone is listening, I'm keen. I want to make this happen. That'll be my great legacy for me. The treadmill, the treadmill in the new political prison that generates electricity.
Oh yeah, that is a wonderful image.
Put it in the middle of the Karoo, so even if they escape, they'll die trying to. No, the Kalahari. We need it must be in the middle of like just the most desolate place where you couldn't, if you tried to walk to the nearest road, you wouldn't survive. And they must be in there. They must do hard labor, not sit and watch TV and WhatsApp their friends. They must have no contact with the outside world. There must be a cell phone tower.
They'll all be there together anyway.
Exactly. Yes. And then we give them all knives at halftime. And let's see who survives. Right? Yeah, people like this.
Oh.
People like this idea. People like the treadmill.
It is
breaking rocks and then gluing them together again. Telling you, I can come up with great punishments for these people. Anyway, it is 7:00. We've got the burning platform coming up next. Don't go away. We've got, for the first time on the show, the Vryheidsfront Plus. Right, they're coming. That's Dr. Corne Mulder next.
Oh.
I'll tell you why we decided to bring him in, because I saw a clip where he made the most sense out of any politician I've heard for a long time in this country. We're going to hear from him next.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Well, I'm a recreational pilot, and it's fun to fly, but it's not a mode of transport. I personally, I think what Elon Musk is doing in terms of tunneling, high-speed trains, or even high-speed carts that you can put your car on and zip somewhere. Because what's the point of transport? Getting from A to B.
To B,
and you got to be able to do that at scale. So mass transport, currently Boeings and Airbuses, long haul. That might become rockets if Elon Musk gets his way. You can get anywhere in the world in 30 minutes. And then it's just about the last mile.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
Changes in the immune system that is associated with a change in risk for cancer. So I've also just touched on another one, obesity. Overweight and obese patients have a higher risk of developing cancers. So are patients with a sedentary lifestyle, secondhand smoke, chemicals, and you know what? How do we avoid chemicals? In today's life, I think it's incredibly difficult. And then alcohol. 1 unit of alcohol changes your risk for developing colorectal cancer. Shocking.
Yo.
Shocking to think about how many people have a glass of wine every night with dinner. 1 glass. You would never classify them as heavy drinkers, but 1 unit of alcohol has the ability to change your risk for developing colorectal cancer.
That was the Tea Health Show, empowering you with knowledge. Download all previous episodes on your favorite podcast platform. The Tea Health Show is brought to you by Tea Clinic.
Man, good morning. It is cliffcentral.com on a Thursday morning. We're almost at the weekend. We're starting to warm up. It's almost spring. You can feel it in the air. We're very excited. And the Burning Platform today is going to, as usual, cover all the things that are in the news, the stuff that you want to talk about. We'll talk about politics. We'll talk about the political parties. We'll talk about what's happening in Kempton Park at the moment. And we're going to introduce our guest to you in just a moment. But first, he's just made a...
Kanthan walks in here like Stevie Wonder.
Yeah, with his sunglasses on, and he's dressed to the nines. What are you going? Are you also going to Kempton Park to start your political party, or are you over that?
What are all these pins on here?
What's going on? What's going on? How's it, Kanthan?
What are all these pins, Kanthan?
Yeah, what are you wearing there? You look like you're advertising stuff. What is that?
It's my usual jeans and t-shirt.
No, but what's on the jacket? What are those pins?
What are the pins on the jacket?
It's rotary.
Oh, rotary.
Yeah, so this is the
Okay.
rotary AIDS pin.
Okay.
This is a rotary sponsor pin because I've sponsored young up-and-coming people to get into rotary.
Yes.
And this is a Paul Harris Fellowship,
Oh,
which is a recognition from my fellow Rotarians for public service above and beyond.
look at
Call of
you.
Duty.
Above and beyond the call
Okay.
of duty.
And now you're putting your jacket back on.
Yeah, so I can look good on camera for you.
Okay.
guys,
Well, you look good anyway. We weren't complaining. In
We
fact,
weren't complaining.
you
We
can
were
put the sunglasses back
on as well.
Yeah, we may as well do this properly.
People must see this.
There we go. Look
Let's
at
look at
The
this
Stevie
man.
Wonder
Kanthan.
headshake thing.
Walks in here like Stevie Wonder, jacket and glasses,
Got a-
dark
Got a
glasses.
good look going there. I want to introduce you to our guest for this morning, and we've never had this party on the show, and it's our fault. He is Dr. Corne Mulder of the Vryheidsfront Plus, and it's a party that has made, in a clip that I saw just the other day, you made the most sense out of any politician I've heard in South Africa for, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years, because you were totally like not into all of this nonsense, emotional rubbish and rhetoric. You were like, you want to beat the ANC, and you just explained how you do it. This is how you do it. This is what you have to do. All these parties who are constantly bickering within and without, trying to make alliances before they even know what the voters want. I mean, you made sense, and I suddenly thought, we've got to have you in here. So it's a great
Are you going to
pleasure.
play the clip?
I don't have the clip
Okay.
here, and it's long. It's long.
Okay.
We could put it on the website and let people look at it there. The reason I don't want to play that is because I actually want to get Corne
Let
to
the man
explain it
speak.
exactly in his own words. So first of all, welcome and thank you for coming. It's very, very nice to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here and a privilege. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. And how is the Vryheidsfront Plus doing?
I think we're doing very well. We are one of the more established parties. We came into being just in the run-up to the 1994 election.
That's right.
And in the last election, we ended
First
up...
leader was
Dr. Constant Viljoen.
Constant Viljoen, that's right.
That's
Yeah.
correct. So we ended up in the last election as the 5th largest party in parliament out of 14. And we've got a constant track record in that sense, that we are there to make a difference. We are not there to play cheap politics. And at the moment, with all the developments with regard to coalitions and the things, how they play out, the party is doing very well. We get support across the board at the moment.
Well, in the last election, you went up considerably
Yes, we
in
did.
terms of your representation.
Exactly, we did. And also in the local government election, we did very well. And I'm really very optimistic in terms of where we stand at the moment. I think there are going to be interesting things happening.
Now, Dr. Mulder, you are the chief whip of the Vryheidsfront Plus. You are not the leader of the
That's
party.
correct, yes.
Of course, from the rest of the party, we see a lot of what you do in Parliament, you in particular
Yes.
in Parliament. We could get into, Phumi and I were absolutely perplexed this morning by how smoking legislation is again a priority, but some bill about electricity, which is an emergency situation, that's been delayed. It's amazing to me what Parliament, you're still in that rubbish building that isn't Parliament. You're in the Cape Town City Hall still.
We use the Cape Town City Hall when we've got joint sittings, which are the larger ones, opening of Parliament or discussing the budget.
Was your office burnt down?
Luckily not. Luckily
Okay.
not. My offices are just next to the president's offices at Tuinhuis, which is part of that
Oh, that's
complex in
nice.
that building.
Okay.
So we were not ravaged by the fire, but it's an abnormal situation. You know, Parliament is not normal at the moment because first we had the 2 years of COVID, which made it very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we were ready at last to go back, the building burned down, which is absurd. So at the moment, we use the Good Hope Chamber, which is one of the smaller chambers. It can take about 70, 80 people.
Okay.
And most sittings are basically hybrid sittings on YouTube and channels, and then obviously in Parliament itself.
All right. So we tried this with the EFF the other day, and I don't know how well it went, but
Not at all.
okay, it didn't go well at all. But what does the Vryheidsfront Plus stand for? Like, what are your basic principles? Why would someone vote for you?
Let me try to put it this way. If I have to speak in racial terms, I'm not European. I'm an African. I'm a white African if I have to speak in racial terms. And
Already the EFF are protesting outside already after what you just said.
No, but the reason is this. We are committed to this country like all other South Africans. I don't have a second passport, a different attitude to go somewhere else. We are here to stay and to make a difference. But what we are saying is basically this, that we need to really recognize the true diversity of South Africa. And that's the beautiful part of South Africa. We are a very diverse society.
Mm-hmm.
But let's give recognition to that diversity and bring the best out of all the different components of the South African society. So what we are saying is this. It is true that democracy in the last analysis nowadays is not merely a question of one person, one vote. It's also a question of how do you look after your minorities in your country so that everyone feels accommodated, that everyone feels they can make a contribution. And if you do that, then you can take South Africa forward. So our approach has been right from the beginning. We want to be part of the solution. We don't want to be part of the problem. And we are playing that constructive role. Also now in coalitions, basically. Many people see the Freedom Front Plus as the glue that keep things together, that see the process going forward, and we are playing that role at the moment as well.
You certainly don't seem to be playing the destructive role that so often is played by either the DA or any of its other coalition partners. Now, very seldom, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Phumi and Kanthan, but you don't hear about like the Vryheidsfront having a tantrum and storming out of a sitting or deciding to leave on a whim because they didn't get X position or Y position.
No.
Or like you're the adults in the room a lot of the time.
Well, the fact of the matter is politics is a different kind of fighting. But in politics, you fight with words. You fight with ideas. And you can't do that if you storm out or you have a tantrum or anything like that. You have to be responsible in that instance. Luckily, our leadership, myself, Dr. Mulder, who's the national leader, are both colleagues who have been there for quite a while. In my own position, I've been there with 7 different presidents in South Africa. When I started my career, P.W. Botha was still the prime minister and the president.
Wow.
And I had 5 years before 1994 and now basically 30 years after that.
And you're still in better condition than Joe Biden or Donald Trump. All right, because I know Kanthan and Phumi got lots of questions for you, and I really am. It's remiss of us to not have had the Vryheidsfront Plus here earlier, because you are a growing party.
Yes, we are.
There are only a few parties that are growing in this country, and you have quite a lot to say, and often it just gets pushed to the sidelines. Do you think that the media don't have a lot of time for you?
Well, I think sometimes some of the media obviously goes for sensation. So it makes good headlines if the EFF disrupts Parliament or storms out. And we try to be the reasonable voice.
You guys don't swing your underpants around.
No, we don't.
So you don't get as much press.
No, well, but I guess that plays a role as well.
Personally, I wouldn't like to see Dr. Mulder undies.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So we are out there all the time. At the moment, as I've said, the party is making huge inroads. And the interesting thing is this. The support at the moment, and I think it may be part of the position that I took in that the speech that you basically refer to. We get support from across the spectrum, from across the different communities, obviously, who say, but let's listen to what these guys are saying, and maybe that's the answer.
Yeah, the other thing, the reason it grabbed my attention in particular was because you weren't addressing just your supporters.
No.
You were actually talking to people who support other parties. Saying to them, listen, if you guys want to be taken seriously, start thinking like serious people.
You know, Gareth, as someone who hasn't actually heard this clip, And, we've been talking around it. And so,
It's
Corne,
a
do you mind?
précis.
Do you mind
A
just giving us
précis.
a
Good point.
I was
executive
gonna ask
summary
for
of
it
what we're
too.
talking about?
Yes, let me try to explain. It was in Sandton at the State of the Nation debate that was organized, and all the parties were invited. I've been in a position to play a very important role in that sense within the coalition negotiation process. After the local government elections, I have been studying politics. Obviously, that's my life. I've been studying coalitions as well. And when the results came after the local government election in 2021, it was quite clear we've reached the moment of coalitions. Luckily, I'm not a leader of any political party. I'm just a senior guy there that has been there for 35 years. So what I did then was I extended an invitation to all the leaders of the different parties and said, let's get together and see what we can do. And they came. And in that situation, I ended up as the chairperson of the negotiation technical committee dealing with coalitions. So the answer is, if we want, let me step one step back. I am of the view that we cannot afford a further 5 years of the current government. I think they need to go. But the question is, how do you achieve that? And the silver bullet that can make that possible is coalition. Coalitions are the answer to trying to do that, because no single party is going to obtain 50% on their own in the next election. But if you combine in a coalition, different parties bring their support to one coalition, you can do that. So the point that I made at that speech was, are we serious in the attempt to remove the ANC from power? And if we are serious, there's only one way to do that, and that's the right way. And my argument was the following. First of all, I think we are underestimating the ANC. The ANC is not going to voluntarily just let go of political power. We've seen that. I've seen that. I've experienced that. In these metros that we put together, the ANC has done everything legally and almost illegally to destabilize. They're doing it at this very moment. Look in Swane at the moment with strikes, etc. So they're not going to be an easy situation just giving up on power. So we need to be serious. And if we are serious, there's one way to do that. And my argument was the following. The political parties themselves will not succeed in achieving that majority unless we get civil society involved across the spectrum of civil society. And I use the example, I say, before 1994, there was an organization called the UDF. I think people remember that. And I say what we need is a new UDF, where civil society gets involved across the spectrum. I'm talking about the churches, the business community, the trade unions, individuals, academics. Every sector of society should get involved. What is the aim? First of all, if you can't vote, it means nothing. You can write a letter to the press and so be it. People need to get out there and register so that they can go out and vote. That broad church should come together with a respectable leadership, and they should go and frame, let's say, 10 basic principles. What principles? Principles that you find internationally, best practice of countries that are successful. What do? Go and frame those principles. And then everybody gets involved. That entity should have a name. It should have a logo. Then political parties that associate with that kind of approach can become part of that. And I foresee that parties will go into the election. They will have their own posters. But on that poster of the Freedom Front Plus, of the DA, they should also have the logo of this broad church, the civil society organization. Then people can go out and still vote for the party of their choice. But they know that their party will be part of a new group, a new coalition that come together, that makes a pact and promises to the electorate that we will govern in terms of those agreed upon principles. So it's no longer a question of people that could sit back and say, well, this is interesting. I hope you are successful. There's no you, it's us. Everyone needs to get involved. If we don't do that, if there's not a broad swell on grassroots level, the ANC will still win the next election. They will still be in power for the next 5 years. In order to do that, it should not be the political parties that take the initiative. It should be civil society. The political parties themselves, it's important what's happening in Kempton Park at the moment, and I'm involved in that. Let's get the political house a little bit more in order and try to find some direction. But civil society needs to take the lead. And I can assure you there's a process going on at the moment already behind the scenes. And I expect that it will be launched at the end of September with a launch in Johannesburg and a launch in Cape Town. So that process has been busy. I've been interacting with some people very much involved in getting that going behind the scenes. But to succeed in this, political parties need to get over themselves and understand it's not about them. Political leaders need to get over themselves. It's not about them. It's about the electorate. And if we do it in that fashion, we can change this country and the course of this country for the better in the correct direction. And I think it's absolute time that we do that. So that's a summary. It was about a 12 minutes.
No.
It's about a 12 minutes.
I'm chuckling about the 10 principles things. It
Yes.
sounds vaguely familiar. There was a party that did that in 2019. I wonder who that was.
You.
No,
Right.
but that's excellent, and I'm chuckling in a very positive way, because the
Sure.
entire idea around what the 10 of us at the time were trying to do was exactly that:
Yes.
to get people to coalesce around what is the stuff that we can actually agree upon,
Exactly.
and if we can all agree upon this,
Exactly.
then let's take that as a starting
Even
point.
yesterday in an interview I did, which has gone all over the place, one of the big issues that came up is that we don't have a vision for
Yes.
what the best case scenario for this country is. We're just surviving from moment to moment, trying to band-aid all our biggest problems.
Sure.
There's no vision.
Yes.
So if this thing is a vision, I think people will flock to it just because we're so desperate for a vision.
What I said in the speech, and I concluded with that to say, our people are desperate out there. They need hope. They need hope. They've given up. They think it can't be done. They think we can't succeed with that.
Corne, Phumi always brings up the fact that the biggest question here, and I hope I'm not stealing this thunder from you, the biggest, all these people who don't vote,
Correct.
all these people are apathetic, who've given up on the political process in
Exactly.
its entirety, right, Pums?
Sure.
And so just listening to what we've seen, whether it's on social media or any of the small videos and the stuff that you do put out as the Freedom Front Plus, for me, I think, and this is the opportunity for people who are listening, just to give us your top 3 priorities. So of those 10 things that, you are in senior
Sure.
management in
Yes.
the Freedom Front.
Yes.
So you have a clear understanding of what the Freedom Front stands for.
Sure.
And what would those top 3 things be, which I assume are the things you would fight for in a broad
Absolutely.
coalition?
Absolutely. The first one is economic growth. Unless we can get the economy to grow, we will not succeed in dealing with South Africa's problems. We need to get the economy growing.
Doesn't it sound a bit obvious? Because
It is.
who's against economic growth?
No, but the question is, how do you achieve that? How do you achieve that? In other words, you need to go and see what are the right way to do that. And part of that is we need much less government. We need small government to allow civil society and public and the private sector to get ahead and to do what they need to do. I've sat in many committees in Parliament when a department would come and do some feedback. Then the ANC would ask the department, the state departments, how many new jobs have you created? Civil service can't create jobs. They are just redistributing pay.
That tax money.
It's tax money. Yeah. So we need to have the right recipe to create jobs and to get the economy growing. And there are experiences out there. The second one is we need to get crime under control, and basically to make South Africans feel safe again, so that people can go out there, create stability and law and order in South Africa. You need to do that. Zero tolerance in terms of crime. We need to get that going. Corruption. South Africa is a laughing stock of the world at the moment because of how corrupt things have changed under this ANC government in the last 30 years. And it goes right to the top throughout. We need to deal with that kind of thing as well. We need to respect the diversity of society. There are wonderful, beautiful people in all of our communities out there. We know that. There's a small group of radicals. Let me not say what I call them, but it reminds me of red Teletubbies, perhaps. A small group of people walking around, striking matches and throwing them into the grass. And they want to set this country alight because they believe that out of that chaos, their revolution will rise. We need to pull a cordon sanitaire around that. Don't give it any energy, because that is the problem. It's a small group. So we think we can do this. We absolutely can.
Right, but
There's no
Corne,
doubt.
these are not controversial.
No, they are not.
So you've got economic growth. I think everybody
Yes.
in the country would like to see that.
Yes.
Well, remember the question that we spoke about a couple of weeks ago, Gareth and Phumi, when we were talking about the extent to which politicians understand how the economy works.
They don't.
They don't.
Right.
And that's a fundamental
Right.
problem that we have to deal with, because, and this goes to the DA as well. If you ask the DA, how does the economy work? They actually don't have a clue.
They don't know.
They do understand governance, and,
Yes.
by all means, let's give credit
Administration.
to the administration, and, they do understand how to deregulate, well, to some extent.
It's like the ANC understand cadre deployment.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly.
They
But
do.
at the same time, Corne, at one level, yes, all of the things you say, I agree with 100%.
Sure.
What people are not understanding is the fact that we have had this extractive economy in the country for more than 100 years.
Yes.
But the minerals under the ground are running out.
Correct.
And the question that I'm not seeing politicians addressing is, what is the plan for when all of those resources actually run out? Now, we see, for example, that the Saudis are planning for a time when they no longer have oil revenue. And they are investing heavily in all sorts of, in fintech. They're spending massive amounts of money in smart cities that are going to be able to sustain themselves. And they're investing heavily in education. All of these types of things that we're not even talking about.
Correct.
They're not on the horizon. So we've got, so
Exactly.
what is the plan for the future, though?
No,
Because,
exactly.
so on one level, yes, we fix by, addressing all of the shortcomings that we currently have.
Sure. Now, if you talk about based international practice, those things that you've mentioned now, exactly what we are talking about. We need to send South Africa in a different direction. Just imagine, and I've always argued and I said, South Africa should be the locomotive that pulls the train of Africa. We should set the example. We've got all the potential here. We've got the most wonderful human capital. We've got all the resources, etc. But we need to plan in terms of looking to the future. As you correctly point out, one day the minerals will run out. In the meantime, we should stop just exporting them. We should start with beneficiation and those kind of things, and then start to move in a smart economy, which can be done. But in order to do that, the current government has proven themselves that they are incapable of doing that, and they have been destroying this country for many, many years. And if we do this the right way, just imagine the potential that we can unleash and the hope that people are absolutely screaming out there for a positive approach to do that.
Talk to us, please, about Kempton Park, because this is something that we've been hearing a lot about. Is it being rebranded from Moonshot Pact?
Yes.
What are they calling it now? The National Convention?
No. I can. Yeah. Well,
What is it?
It's now called the Multi-Party Charter for South Africa, and that's much better. Let me just try to explain that. I've been involved with this process right from the beginning in terms of after local government elections. The problem was that in April of this year, the DA had their Federal Congress, and then they launched the idea of the Moonshot Pact. I had a problem with that because it was a one-sided initiative of one party, not consulted with anybody else, and that was a huge problem. And parties don't want to be seen that they are being co-opted or that they are supporting one-party initiative. So we had to make that more legitimate from my perspective. So luckily yesterday, there's no more moon, there's no more shot, and there's no more pact. It's gone. We are now expressing it in the right fashion. It says what it's about. It's about a multi-party. Because we've got a multi-party democracy, we always have that because of the electoral system. It's a charter for South Africa. And just imagine, now we need to go and sit down and we can prepare a charter for economic growth. We can prepare a charter for law and order, for stability, for all the things that are there that needs to be addressed.
So how do your priorities that you outlined for us, your top three things, do those align well with what the rest of the parties in this?
Yes. If I may, yesterday we succeeded, after we've changed the name and we buried the moon, the shot, and the pact, we succeeded in formulating a vision for this group of political parties.
Let's hear this.
That vision says the following.
This is what you and I
Let me give you the vision that we agreed upon yesterday. It says a new government to build a just, inclusive, and prosperous South Africa based on opportunity, freedom, and security for all its citizens. It's a lot of things to be said. It's a lot of things in terms of that we need to address. But
please read it again.
Let me try again. Okay. It says a new government to build a just, inclusive, prosperous South Africa. How do we achieve that? Based on opportunity, freedom, and security for whom? All its citizens.
But that sounds exactly like the Constitution.
Well, that's not a bad place to start.
Yeah.
That's not a bad place to start because you see, the problem is this. I was at Kudesa 30 years ago, and the problem was the Constitution.
In Kempton Park.
Yes, in Kempton Park. I was in the same building.
Are you getting deja vu?
Exactly. I was there yesterday, and if you go into that thing, there's a huge exhibition of pictures of those times. That was 30 years ago, and it was a huge, interesting process, but that's a different one. The problem was the Constitution was framed in such a manner that he who gets into power can use the Constitution to achieve the wrong things or the right things. And the ANC have been able to do that. For example, there are many provisions in the Bill of Rights that are broadly framed, this, ever, if this is possible, but. So the ANC, who has been in power alone for all these years, took wrong decisions. And the problem was this. The Constitution makes provision for a proportional system of election, which is good. We've had an abnormal democracy now for 30 years. Why do I say that? It's unheard of in a proportional system that one party achieves more than 50% by themselves. And there's a reason for having had that, because of the history, because of the ANC, the liberation movement, etc. But that is now coming to an end.
But the reason we had the proportional representation was precisely so parties like your own, which
Yes.
represent minority voices,
Sure.
are also given representation.
Exactly.
And it's not just a 50+1. So the
Yes.
ANC has not been in power alone.
Correct.
All the voices have been there. And my question, though, is why is it that you think these kinds of coalitions will be more effective than what is supposed to be happening in Parliament, where, as a whip, you know that one of the things that you do is whipping the votes for all of these bills that are being put there.
Sure.
So why will this be different from what has been supposed to be happening and not happening very effectively?
Yes. I think why it will be different is this. We are elected 400 members, individual members in Parliament. But members don't act individually. They act within the frames of party discipline. So having had the majority for so long, the ANC members who disagree were basically worked out of the system. And the ANC used their majority to enforce their thing. We've succeeded from an opposition point of view over many years to have, as you correctly point out, to have influence, to steer to a certain extent, but you're doing that without political power. You have to do that by convincing people and to try to do that. If you now have a government and you can form a coalition of political parties that are bound by a group of principles that we've agreed, with a group of priorities that we've agreed, then that is the agreement that we've got with the electorate to support that. They will keep us accountable to do exactly that, and we can take that further. And I think we've all had the experience of having seen what has happened in South Africa for the last 30 years. That maybe that was not such a good idea. Many of the things that happened, we may have a second chance now to do it the right way. And I did have déjà vu yesterday when I was at the World Trade Center, because there were so many expectations. You remember the Rainbow Nation? We all take hands and move forward. What happened to that? Let's use the opportunity to do a course correction, and steer the country where we need to go. We can do that.
How confident are you that this isn't going to break down like these things often do? And you were talking about coalitions, and that was what in your speech got my attention in the first place. There are places in the world where coalitions have worked, but by and large, they're extremely fractious. They break on the most tedious and tenuous of terms. Someone doesn't get a post in a municipal executive, and suddenly that party's out.
Yes. You're right.
Or they cross the floor.
Or they cross the floor. We're a very young democracy, and therefore we're infantile in some respects.
Sure. No, when we started the negotiations of the local government elections,
are you shumbocking people into place? I mean, you were the chief whip of your party, but I mean, like, there isn't. It seems to us, ordinary citizens, that the politicians are not very disciplined people.
Yes. No, there's not one example where the Freedom Front Plus did not stick to the agreements that we've signed, or that we became a problem in a coalition. Not once. And we are involved in many coalitions. For example, I'm responsible in the Western Cape also as a party leader in the Western Cape. In the Western Cape, for example, we've got 25 local governments. In 11 of those, the Freedom Front Plus is in coalition with the Democratic Alliance. You won't hear of those. Why? Because they are stable, we are co-governing, and we are making a difference to the lives of people. So the whole approach now is to say, this is not about...
don't say that, because then you're going to get people semigrating to the Western Cape, and
I don't want to burst your bubble. They are doing that at this very moment. They are doing that. No, the fact of the matter is, when we started this process, we said, this is not about positions. That comes at the end. You cannot form a coalition unless you get people on the same page. In other words, if you look at the different political parties, each one of them do have their own unique things that make them different. And that's a good thing. For example, let's take the ACDP, for example. They practice politics in a certain way. Freedom Front Plus, we've got certain things that are important to us, and we focus very much also on the rights of minorities as a group, different minorities.
Because that's your voters.
Those are our voters.
Your job.
If
they wouldn't vote for you if you didn't.
Exactly. The IFP are national party. They are the fourth largest party in South Africa, but we all know they are very dominant in KZN, and I predict that they are likely to become the government again in KZN after the next election. Each one of these parties have those unique things, but we do find, in terms of the principles that we agreed, certain things that we have in common, and we focus around those things. You can only bring parties into a coalition that agree on that kind of principled base from where you can then operate, and allow the parties to have their unique things out there, and everyone will get their votes. Combined, you bring the votes into a coalition situation. And then you build the coalition around those principles and those values. And obviously, there will be all kinds of codes of ethics, etc., etc. The interesting thing is this. There's a lot of pressure being applied by the electorate on political parties. Research shows political parties at the moment that are being seen to be bickering and fighting, their support is going down. Political parties that are acting like the adults in the room, their support is going up. The electorate is quite clear. They don't want to see that. They don't want to do that. And the politicians, either are going to be that fight and make these things difficult, will be punished at the polls. I've got no doubt about that. People, and that's why I'm saying this, and I'm in a unique position. Yes, I'm the chief of the Freedom Front Plus. That is my party. But when I do these things, I put on a different hat, a coalition hat, in the interest of the bigger South Africa. We need to do that. And people and political parties need to get over themselves. There's a bigger reality out there.
Because actually, ordinary citizens don't care about the parties as much as we care about seeing this country start to pull itself out of the
No,
mire.
we just want to see stuff actually work.
We actually don't even care about pulling this country as a whole. People just want to get on with their lives. People want to work. People want to be safe. People want to be they want electricity.
Jobs.
They want to be in an environment that is conducive for them to live their best lives.
And that should be the role of a government that should create the conditions for that to happen.
They must just facilitate it.
Exactly.
And we don't need to know their ideology or any of that nonsense.
No. And that means you need a very much smaller government.
So Corne, are there people you won't sit at the table with?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
This is important because everybody thinks that the way to go about this is to say, oh, well, we're open to everybody. No. Who are those people you won't sit with and why?
I know that the Democratic Alliance currently, and that's part of the strategy, they say the EFF is enemy number one. I say, no, it's not correct. Enemy number one remains the ANC. Why? The EFF didn't govern anywhere in South Africa in the last 30 years. The ANC did. South Africa is in this crisis because of ANC policy, ANC corruption, ANC projects, etc. Enemy number one remains the ANC. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm convinced that we cannot turn South Africa around as long as the ANC is involved in government. My view is the ANC needs to be removed from government in totality. So the ANC is, and luckily we agreed on that yesterday as well. We've invited all political parties, all parties that agree to that vision, that agree to the agreed principles and the priorities. And
so as Phumi said, the Constitution, basically. So any party that won't come to this arrangement is probably not pro-Constitution either.
Well, and then there's a qualification. And the aim is to remove the ANC from government and to keep the EFF out of government.
Oh, okay.
So the focus on those two parties, that's the problem. The ANC needs to get out of government, and we need to prevent South Africa from having the EFF coming into any government.
And what did they say about that? Because you speak to them, you sit with them in Parliament.
Well,
are they very angry with you? Are they disappointed to not be included? Are they?
You cannot include the EFF under no circumstances. If you look at their policy positions, if you look at the way that they approach politics, they are in this wonderful euphoric idea of revolution. It's so romantic, it's so beautiful, it's so magical. Just a revolution. I'm not interested in that. It's actually tragic. They are about 50 years behind the times of what's happening in the world, idealizing revolution. And it's quite nice. All their speakers in Parliament, when they start with any speech, they first need to greet the Commander-in-Chief, and then they send some greetings to the ground forces. I can't behave then, and then I will ask them, what about your air forces and your sea forces, which they don't have, obviously. But no, the EFF, as I've said, is not part of the problem, not a part of the solution, my apology. They are part of the problem. And they've got this wonderful idea.
But you don't take them as seriously as you take the ANC.
No, I don't. I don't. They had their rally. They are a problem in that instance. Some people would say,
Big rally, impressive show of force.
yeah,
Yeah,
100,000.
it's amazing what will happen when you provide free buses and free food to
Exactly.
people.
Yeah,
who
but,
actually-
Can I just put that-
but give credit where it's due.
No,
A
that's
lot
true.
of parties struggle to make
Exactly.
any impact.
Exactly.
For that week, the EFF got all the attention they wanted.
No, that's exactly.
No,
and they
no,
deserved
you're
it.
right.
No argument there whatsoever. But I think at the same time, we must avoid a scenario where we're putting disproportionate importance
Yes.
to something like that. It's like people who get uptight about outrage on Twitter.
Yes.
Twitter is not representative of
Correct.
South Africa.
Correct.
And we must use exactly the
Correct.
same model.
Can I put that 100,000? It was not 100, but let's say that's 100,000 in perspective.
Sure.
100,000 elects 2 members of parliament. There are 400. It elects 2 members to parliament. There are 400. So,
Told you.
So
Now,
the fact is,
she brought that up the other day.
So
She's,
it's about perceptions, but you must also remember this magnificent failure of the EFF when they tried to bring the country to a halt on the 1st of May on Workers' Day.
I remember that.
Yes.
Look, and I'm also asking myself, what is the difference in this 2 days that you have now of this national convention from what was discussed by, and you were part of it, that
Yes.
conversation too, in Cape Town on the 11th?
Let me explain that. There's a huge difference. There's a massive difference. I was amazed. It was also good to be there. Suddenly, at a conference in Cape Town at the University of Western Cape, that is an ANC initiative. It comes from the Deputy President. And it was fascinating to listen to the Deputy President. For the last 30 years, the ANC was very happy to govern all by themselves, ignore any advice, and they knew what needs to be done. And suddenly it seems that the polls or something indicate that they may lose power. So suddenly at the University of Western Cape, we've got a very responsible ANC that says, from now on, let's all govern together. And let's try to find consensus about things, and everybody gets involved. Why? Because the ANC realizes the game is up. The fact that they will no longer be in the position to govern alone. Now they want to try and change the rules of the game so that the ANC at least be part of government. Always be very suspicious when a government wants to change the electoral system or they want to change the rules of the governing processes. Why? They will never do that to their own detriment, on the contrary. So this is an attempt by the ANC to stick into power. We are not interested in that. Not at all.
So why be there? Why have the conversation? Why be in the room to have the conversation with them if you
Yes.
are clear that you don't want to work with them?
One, it's a technical thing. We were invited not by the ANC, we were invited by the Deputy President of South Africa. So we went there, we had to go and listen. Civil society was there, political parties was there, and it's good to know the thinking within the ruling party, etc. And now we know. I know exactly where we stand. Now we know what we need to deal with.
I have a question here from Darren in the comments, and he makes a good point just from a strategic point of view. I want to know, what will your plan be when the ANC and EFF join in a coalition? And someone else says just after that, Just Frogo says, by isolating the EFF, you make them friends of the ANC, and that could be a majority of its own.
Yes and no. I'm not convinced that the ANC and the EFF will go together. They hate each other.
Wow.
On a daily basis, you remember now, the EFF is going full out for the ANC. There's a difference of opinion there. I don't believe that the ANC and the EFF are that close to one another, not at all. But the challenge is this, and that's what I've said in that meeting, at the discussion in the SONA debate thing. If we succeed in doing this broad UDF, new UDF church, if we get everybody, and remember, if you talk about people that opted out of the system, 13 million people who are registered didn't vote in the last election. 13 million. There's another 14 million who have not even registered. We're talking about 27 million South Africans who need to get into the system. Come, it's your future. Get involved. My challenge is this broad church, with this charter of political parties, we need to be so successful that the ANC and the EFF combined needs to be pushed below 50%. That even if they try, they cannot govern. It can be done. Some of the polls indicate that the ANC have lost a massive amount of support. I think the EFF is overrated in terms of their support, and I think their support is also declining. If you look at by-election results at the moment, EFF is not doing well at all. So the challenge is, it is a risk that the ANC and the EFF gets together. May happen. We don't know how it's going to play out, but it's in the hands of the electorate. If we can get, and part of the strategy is, I've indicated in my speech, there are 4 groups that we need to focus on. 4 groups.
This is good.
The one group are the young people, 18 to 35. Young people. I've got 4 children in that group who have opted out of the system. They don't register, they don't care, they don't vote, they're busy with their daily lives. I understand that. I need you to get involved on one day, polling day. Go out and make a cross. So that's the first group, 18 to 35. There's another group, older people, my age, many of them Afrikaans and white, who have also opted out of the system. We don't want to be participating. We need to get older people involved as well. The third group, I believe, and surveys indicate that there's approximately 1/3 of ANC supporters who are disillusioned with their own party. In the last election, they opted not to vote at all. We now need to get them to vote for an alternative, but we must be realistic. They're not going to vote for some of the established parties. They're not going to vote for the Freedom Front Plus. They're not going to vote for the Democratic Alliance. But there are new kids on the block. Rise Mzansi is there. Musi Maimane, the Bosa. There are other groups as well. We need to focus on that group and assure them that what we are doing with is going forward, not going backwards. And the last group, of course, are South Africans abroad, expats. We need to focus on those 4 groups. And if we get people to register and get involved, we can push the ANC and the EFF, even combined, below 50%. It can be done.
So my marketing mind says, if you are sitting with 13 million people who are already registered, but haven't come to vote.
Yes.
And considering that the ANC won with 11 million votes, you've got more people outside than inside the system.
Exactly.
Why then, as the Freedom Front Plus, are you not hunting there to say, you, as the Freedom Front Plus, convince these 12 million, 27 million people to vote for you? Why do you not think that you can do that?
I think we can. I really think we can.
So why do you need the coalition?
Well, some of that 13 million will be convinced to come to the Freedom Front Plus. But some of them will feel more inclined perhaps to vote for the IFP, and we must make it possible. Some may be more inclined to vote for the ACDP for other reasons, or for the DA, or for Rise Mzansi. So it's a broad process out there to get people there. But obviously, as a political party, we all go for that market, obviously, and get other people to get involved, and I think it's possible. Definitely.
There's a couple of things that I want to toss in your direction. So the one, so I'm just going to outline them, and I'd just like you to tell me your take on it. So one of the things that I'm fairly convinced of is that people will vote for something. They won't vote against something.
Yes.
And the difficulty that we have right now is in terms of this broad church that we're talking about. We actually don't have the concept of what is the thing they are voting for, as opposed to actually getting the ANC out of office.
Correct.
The second thing is that I agree that, yes, there's going to be a lower turnout for the ANC, but I'm also making the case that there's going to be a lower turnout across the board. And so when you have a situation where there is that overall lower turnout, in spite of the decline of support for the ANC, if you just drill down into the logic, it means that they will still manage to achieve 50% threshold with the EFF, in spite of the fact that there's a lower turnout.
Correct.
And then, the third thing is that once you've gotten to the stage where you've actually managed to get the ANC and EFF together below 50%, you're still not going to be able to effectively form a government without the ANC being part of it. Now, I can very easily see a scenario that's happening, and I agree with you that the ANC and the EFF are unlikely to form a coalition.
Yes.
But what you are likely to see is the scenario that we had in Johannesburg when Mashaba was here, where the EFF was not in a coalition with the DA. But at the same time, they enabled the voting of Mashaba into power in exchange for getting access to certain levers of power.
Yes.
And that's a scenario that they're likely to play out in the national parliament. So I'd just like you to just address all of those things and just give me a sense.
You're absolutely correct. First of all, the fact of the matter is that you are not going to succeed to get people enthusiastic by just being against something. You're not going to motivate people to say we are just against the ANC. People vote for something. And what you need to do is you need to put an alternative there, an alternative that will get people enthused and they will say, I can live with this. I want this. So part of this whole process is to say, here is an alternative program of government. This is what we're going to do, and we vote for that. This is how it can be. And I need people to just apply their imaginations. Just think. Just think how this country could be. And you mentioned those things that are happening in some of the countries in the Middle East. Just think for a minute how wonderful and beautiful things could be. So you need to put out there a vision that people will vote for. Secondly, the turnout, if we do not succeed, if we don't do this, the outcome or the turnout will decline. We know that. The whole attempt of this is to prevent that from happening, to get more people into the system, to understand that what do you need to do? You need to participate, you need to go vote. It's no use to say the politicians are stupid, the politicians are corrupt, government means nothing, etc. They don't have the power. The power they've got is given by the electorate, and you can make that decision. So we need to get people to get involved and to go out and vote. The third point you've made with regard to the fact that happened in Johannesburg, part of this whole process, and I've been fortunate to being invited. I've been to Germany to look at their coalitions. We've been to Denmark, etc. You find coalitions on two levels. You'll find coalitions on the executive level, people forming a government. But then you may have a different agreement on the legislative level, where a party may not necessarily be part of government, but there's an agreement that when it comes to the budget, they will support the budget. They're not part of the government. They'll support the budget, but they want in return this or that happening in the budget. And that's exactly what happened in Johannesburg. So you might end up forming an executive and a government, but you'll have to have different arrangements to make governance possible in terms of support that parties that may be outside of the coalition that come into that process. And we have to see how that plays out. And I've said originally, don't underestimate the ANC. The ANC is not going to disappear overnight. It's going to be there for many, many years, although their support is declining. We have to deal with that as well.
So there's a lot of talk of civil society,
yes,
including business. And I've said on the show before that unfortunately we have a situation in South Africa where business continues to make money. Even, in fact, in the chaos, they make more money. And a couple of weeks ago, probably 3 weeks, maybe a month ago now, we also had quite a lot of noise about some 115 CEOs signing up to assist government in delivering. And basically what that means is that all of these companies are willing to prop up a failing ANC to be able to continue failing, and they're going to try and make the difference instead of allowing them to completely fail so that the electorate can decide for themselves that these guys. So what then do you say about getting those people on board? Will they even support something of this nature?
Interesting. At the State of the Nation thing where I delivered that speech here in Sandton, the audience consisted of business people, but not those top companies in South Africa. It was the middle businesses, if I can put it that way.
Little Stufa.
Yeah. But do you remember the Ramaphoria that existed when Ramaphosa became president? Everybody saw it. Now.
It was in the studio.
Now.
It was never here for me, not with you. Phumi was never enthusiastic
and not with me either.
Some people can see into the future, but there was this huge Ramaphoria. Okay. Then it was
there was a new dawn, man.
I know, I remember.
Tumamina.
And then
it was actually a color revolution, guys. It was funded by the US. And it was meant to destabilize the country, and it worked.
and then that it collapsed. It disappeared. Now business is saying, maybe. And then the argument was, but Cyril is not secure in his position. If he's re-elected next time, now he can do things.
Still sat there on his hands.
Exactly. So now they're going to try the same recipe again. It will fail again. And big business needs to come to the party. They need to get over the Rubicon to realize we need a new South Africa that can put a new government, which the ANC is not going to be. So a lot of pressure, and I think they will slowly come around. For them, many of them, it's unthinkable. Those companies supported the previous government before 94, all of them.
Yeah,
same thing.
They switched overnight.
And I can assure you, if we succeed with this, all of them will say, we've always been part of you. We've always supported this.
They follow us, not leaders.
Yes.
Can I propose an alternative scenario?
Please.
I think the best possible scenario for South Africa right now is if the ANC splits. I think that what opposition parties should be doing is to work behind the scenes and to
Chip
actually
away.
encourage a split within the ANC.
Yes.
And really, from my perspective, and trust me, there's still a massive amount of intellectual capital within the ANC. There's a
Yes.
massive amount of patriotic South Africans
Sure.
within the ANC
True.
who actually lost because of the corruption.
Correct.
And if there's an opportunity to persuade them, look, you guys split, form a new party, and then we will support you as part of a coalition when you get in, I think that's likely to accelerate the process of splitting before the elections next year, which is the crucial part.
Sure.
And you pointed out KZN.
Mm.
I think KZN is actually crucial to the entire thing. I can very readily see a scenario where Phumi, I'm sure you agree with what's going to happen in KZN in terms of
What do
the
you think? What
polarization.
do you think is going to happen? What do you
Just
think?
co-opting me into something I've never heard.
What does Kanthan think is going to happen in KZN?
Look, absolutely correct in terms of what Corne says, that the IFP has been steadily increasing its base.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but again, the IFP historically has always been that cult of personality. Shenge has always held the IFP together. But at the same time,
As he lies in hospital
yes,
with major failing health.
He's in his
because-
90s.
I know, but,
we'll,
still.
We'll cut the guy some slack. But the fact is that the ANC in KZN is highly dissatisfied with the rest of the country.
Right.
And you consider all of these people who have power bases, like the likes of Zweli and Kiza as the single case in point. You also have the fact that there's a concerted effort on the part of Ramaphosa to ensure that Mashatile is not able to gain traction, which is why he's been calling out his media dogs. And I think that parties such as yours and the DA, and I think the DA more importantly, having behind the scenes conversations by identifying those people and to try to persuade them to make the break is the best hope for the country. Because frankly, Corne,
It's going to happen.
I can't see this United Democratic Front or United Democratic Movement actually inspiring people enough to be able to make that difference.
Listen,
let's
the
see.
UTF
Let's see.
can't even get it together to have their own 40th celebrations.
But
looking
that's
at all
that's
of the.
that's the UDF of the past.
I know.
I'm talking about the future. Now, you're right in terms of what you say that the ANC is going to split. You're right. It's going to happen. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to happen before the election of 2024. It's going to happen after that. And then you may see a realignment where a group of that from within the ANC will couple up with the EFF, which is fine. But there will be a broad middle ground. Those ANC people that you've
except
talked about.
You see, it can't happen after the elections
Because then it's chaos.
Because we don't have floor crossing anymore.
I know.
So because of that, if there is going to be a split, it has to come now
I know.
before the elections,
I know.
because otherwise we've got 5 years of
Well,
ANC.
I agree. That is ideal. But,
So how do we?
but it's not going to happen. Unfortunately, it's not
I
going to
have-
split
I
before
have-
then.
One last question.
Yes.
If you think of all of your polling, and I know all the parties
Yes.
do polling, if you think of what the voting patterns look like, what is the one thing that you think stops the electorate for broadly supporting
Sure.
Freedom Front Plus?
Sure. The Freedom Front Plus have been seen for many, many years as a party that represents a certain section of society only, which is not correct.
White Afrikaners.
Yes, that's not correct. I'm responsible in the Western Cape. The majority of my candidates in the last local government election were not white.
Just on that note, I don't mean to interrupt Pumi's question, but Sanele asks in the comments, what is the average age in the Vryheidsfront Plus leadership? And what is the percentage of young people, youth, in meaningful positions in the party? That goes with Phumi in this question.
I would say youth would be 70%. If you look at our...
Really?
Yes. There's a new generation of young people. I'm fortunate. I've been there for many, many years. Dr. Groenewald's been there for many, many years. We are two guys that comes from before 94 and until now. But obviously, that's how life works. We will be giving over to the new generation, obviously, but that doesn't mean that we're the only leadership in the party. Our members of parliament are young people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s. And at the moment, many, many young people are coming into the party from different sectors of society.
Okay.
So finish the answer of what it is?
Yes,
Is that one thing?
That's one aspect of that. And then obviously people have reasons why they vote for different parties. There's loyalty. People that traditionally will vote for the IFP are not going to now suddenly vote for the Freedom Front Plus. It's not important. It's not that, and that's why the coalition makes it possible. You can vote for the party of your choice, as long as you know your party will participate in a broader cooperation of different political parties. And then what you do is, as a party, you take your ideals into that coalition. Yes, we've got the basic things that we all agree upon. But obviously, I've got my own agenda. I also want to further this, and the IFP wants to further that. So, and then you find compromises. And that's why coalitions are very good. I don't believe in any party that says, only us. We know, we are the only party for this or for that. It's nonsense. Collective wisdom is always much better, and coalitions force people to compromise. And by compromising, you get the best solutions because, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Let's do this. Let's do that. But I honestly believe the reason why people are opting out, or have opted out, they don't have hope. They don't think it's possible. They don't think it can be done. After 30 years in this current democratic situation with the ANC, people say they've given up. We need to ignite that fire in the heart of people. It can be done.
And why do you think it can be done?
Because it can. It's the reality.
We don't.
Reality.
It's almost like we don't have an option. I mean, Phumi,
correct.
you said just now, and I mean, that number's ringing in my head. The ANC got 11 million votes in the last election, and there are 13 million people registered to vote who did not.
Correct.
Yeah, and a further 17 million who are not even registered to vote.
Yes. Let me say why can it be done? Because Gareth is correct. We don't have an alternative. If we allow things to deteriorate now, what the country would look like?
We'll all be living in absolute
Is that
squalor.
really what we want? So I think people are finding themselves in the sense that they are pushing back. They say, but why? Well, we're not going to keep quiet anymore. If you look across the spectrum, civil society, everybody, look at social media. People are saying enough is enough. We want to have a change. And
you don't need all of those 13 million. You just need 4 or 5 of them.
Exactly.
To decide. 4 or 5 million people decide they suddenly have had enough. They're gat vol. And these are probably the same people who will actually mount a public service delivery protest.
Correct.
So they can go to vote as well.
But there are 13 million who've already decided no. All you have to do is convince them that you have what they are looking for.
And I think what you're saying here is that if they don't like the Vryheidsfront Plus, they can come to one of these other parties.
Vote for the party of your choice, but know that you will be in that group of parties that take South Africa forward. It's now or never. We've got. I think the election will be in May.
I'm very disappointed that we didn't start shouting at each other. I'm very disappointed we didn't argue more vociferously, that we didn't have some major issue where you threw your teacup at me. This is very...
I can still throw my cup at you.
Not at me.
Just,
what have I done wrong?
I thought that's what you wanted.
All right.
Well,
give the people what they
Gareth,
want.
I'm going to say that there was one point at which I was impressed by the Freedom Front Plus, which was when there was that altercation in Parliament and the EFF stormed the presidency. And you had Steenhuisen standing up there like a spoiled brat, saying that inviting law and order into the Parliament was destroying the sanctity of Parliament. And it was utter rubbish. When you have lawlessness taking place, you have to actually deal with that. And, props to the Freedom Front Plus for standing up and saying you need to sort this shit out.
Exactly. And that's why people respect the party, because don't try to be playing popular things. Do the right thing. Stand up. This is what you stand for. Make a stand. So be it.
Dr. Corne Mulder, it's a great pleasure to have you in the studio and in our show this morning.
What?
It's great to have you in the studio. Listen, I'm tired. Great to have you in the studio. Good to have you on the show. And we wish you luck with not only this convention that you guys are at now.
Safely there to Kempton.
Yeah, please.
Yes, I'm going there right now.
Yeah, and good luck. I mean, listen, it doesn't take everybody. It just takes enough people who care.
Thank you very much. It was a privilege to be here, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
No, it's good to see you. All right. Thank you, everybody. That's the end of the Burning Platform for this morning. Kanthan, good to have you back.
I'll be back whenever.
Are you going to be dressing this smartly every week?
If it means putting a jacket on is considered dressing smartly, I'm happy to
These days it is.
to raise the tone.
You're not in a onesie, so our standards are low.
Is there an embargo against onesies in the studio?
Never.
Oh, okay.
Never. But we'd prefer not. I mean, It's just a preference, not an embargo.
Listen, even when I was like at home in the hardest
still
of
dressed up.
lockdowns, I still got dressed up. I
I
could have
know.
been in my
Phumi
onesie.
put on the makeup. She brought the glamour. Thank God, because I don't. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll
Thank you
see
for
you
coming.
next week.